Here's the team, though. You ready? You ready, Jacks fans? Here's the team that undoubtedly, I've done my research on this, that could beat SDSU. I looked through the whole thing, all the teams. And you know who I found? SDSU can beat SDSU. That's it. There you go.
Welcome to the official podcast of FCS Fans Nation with your hosts Kylor Neal, Matthew Frazee, and Jamie Williams.
FCS Fans Nation, you've got a friend in me. Welcome to the FCS Fans Nation podcast. Three of the best friends around the world, Jamie Williams, Kylor Neal, Matt Frazee, coming to you guys early this Sunday. Podcast dropping a little quickly to get an exciting week of FCS football reaction out to you fine folks. We appreciate you guys joining the FCS Fans Nation podcast, as always, sponsored by Walk On Apparel and the Versus Sports Simulator. Kylor, before we get kicked into the Big Seven, we better recognize one of the best humans on planet Earth who hooked us up with a little bit of gear this week, Mr. Joe Gass. And I can see your shirt is looking beautiful in that
Looks
Delaware.
spiffy.
Oh, blue and yellow. Holy moly. Show it for the camera. Really let them see that blue hat.
Oh, yeah. Go Blue Hens, right?
Joe Gass DM'd me as well and sent me from the local shop, Delaware Tailgating official hat right here. You're going to see it, Joe, all next segment when my Halloween Woody hat comes off the top of my head here. But just wanted to give you a huge shout out, and honestly, a shout out to every FCS fan who, to the bottom of your guys' hearts, you just reach out to us. You love the podcast and you want your schools repped. And you send us the gear, and we're always going to rock it for you, no doubt. Surprise, Matthew said the note right here. Joe sent you a hat. Enjoy. Art from Cindy. I appreciate both of you guys. I love that small town feel to it. So thank you so much. We appreciate you guys. So, but before we get kicked into the Big Seven and talk about Delaware, they will definitely be on our topics tonight. Let's get a quick word from our amazing, outstanding sponsors. The FCS Fans Nation podcast is brought to you by Walk On Apparel. Walk On Apparel specializes in FCS and mid-major clothing and believes that every fan base should have quality options to rep the schools they love. Along with you receiving a great product, 10% of the profit from every sale is donated directly to that school's athletic fund. Visit walkon-apparel.com and use promo code FCS Fans Nation to get 15% off of your purchase. Limited schools currently available with new releases monthly. Walk On Apparel. Up the fans, up the culture. The FCS Fans Nation podcast is also sponsored by the ultimate analytical prediction football experience. Introducing the Versus Sports Simulator, your secret weapon for predicting FCS, mid-major, and all other football games. Get ahead of the game and take your sports betting and knowledge to the next level with a site and app that's built to ignore bias and just give you the facts. If you subscribe today and use promo code FCS Fans Nation, you'll save 20% on your subscription. You can download the Versus app on the App Store and Google Play by searching Versus Sports Simulator or going to versussportssimulator.com. With Versus, it's not a prediction, it's science.
The top 7 FCS topics of the week. This is the Big 7.
Oh boy, a stunner this week. No, this is not Jeremiah Rash's Salukis. No, this is a classic show. I think it was shown on FX. Wilford was the name of it. A guy saw his real life dog and they drank beers and did drugs together. Elijah Wood. Yep, a little bit of throwback.
Jesus Christ. What is wrong with this podcast?
Second best holiday of all time besides Christmas is Halloween. So we're going to have some costume changes throughout this sucker. Also, if you're not subscribed on YouTube, you're missing out the fact that this has real live pause. But I need to type a little bit, so I won't be doing that the whole podcast. I look forward to your guys' reactions as I make these changes. These are all natural. Kylor and Jamie did not know this was happening. But what did happen was Montana State, number 2 all year, a top 2 team, goes down to Idaho. And boy, I will not make any Bills references, Jamie, to what occurred at the end of that game. And Mr. Grady Blewett starts us off tonight, guys. What do you think Montana State's biggest problem was versus Idaho? Do they need to make a change at kicker? Kylor Neal, Big Sky Country, my man. What happened to Montana State, or is this all credit to Idaho? And take a bow. You called this.
Yeah, Idaho had a perfect game plan. Again, I said this is something, you just don't want to bet on. But after that loss to Montana, getting 2 weeks off, and then have an game plan, get his team fired up for the number 2 team in the country, I mean, you got to give credit to Idaho. Of course, a few things went wrong for Montana State. For one, I don't think Tommy Malotte's the guy I want in the QB position when you got Chambers. They didn't really play Chambers much, unfortunately. Idaho has a really good front seven. They got really good DBs as well. They threw it a little bit too much, and I don't think Tommy is the type of guy that has the arm to throw it that much. There are a lot of 50-50 balls. I mean, yeah, he had 191 yards in the air, but whenever he throws, it's forced. I mean, I'm not a fan. They didn't run it that much in the first couple drives too. And then Idaho just completely, with their game plan, took apart the time of scrimmage. I mean, they just absolutely did whatever they wanted. They kept Montana State off the field for a very long time. That time of possession was insane. So Montana State had a tough time getting in the rhythm. If this is 5 quarters, Montana State probably wins. I don't know. But, yeah, the missed kicks are huge. Montana State being a one-dimensional, and I get they threw 24 times, maybe to prove me wrong that I keep saying they're one-dimensional. But I still think even if they're throwing 24 times, it's not great. That's not their strength. Their strength is running, and they're not a good passing team. So it is a very one-dimensional team. And when you're playing an Idaho team that has 2 weeks to prep, coming off a bad loss for them, and you got Eck, it just, it had a little bit of a Idaho just did not want to lose this game. McCoy played well in the first quarter. Actually, he should have had a couple picks in the first quarter, but then he kind of calmed down and relaxed and was doing his thing. Pretty dang accurate. Anthony Woods is a beast. Yeah, this Idaho team is just pretty good, pretty dynamic. And it's going to be tough for Montana State to beat these top-tier defenses week in and week out. They're going to have these hiccup games.
It was an interesting result, and boy, we kind of just started giving Montana State a ton of credit for losing close in Brookings. We all were doing it, and then we kind of just discounted Idaho as soon as they lost to Montana. We didn't maybe look a little bit deeper into what was happening or what could happen in the rest of the season. And when you look at total defense, I think this is pretty surprising. I think people come to this podcast to get out of their echo chambers of like maybe the local FCS coverage or the local pods. You know, Idaho is number 15 in total defense in the FCS. I just think you looked at some of the results from last year, and if you're not paying attention to them, that defense is a lot better and way more improved from last season. And that's something that I think people should really recognize. And total passing efficiency defensively. So they're defensively efficient against the pass. 19 in the country. Idaho is number 19 in the country. So to speak to your point, Kylor, if you're going to be passing the ball a ton against Idaho, it's probably not going to go well for you. And 24 times, maybe should have stuck to the rush a little bit.
I can't take it serious.
You can't take it serious?
I can't take it serious.
Listen up. Listen up right now. I was just really impressed by Idaho. And Jamie, not to go away from this game, I certainly want to hear your thoughts on it. I'd also like to hear your thoughts on kind of what Sam Herder tweeted out, which was, hey, if Idaho finishes off, which should be 3 more wins here to finish the season against teams they should be favored against, do they have a resume to be the number 2 seed, if not number 3 over like the Furmans and others? So your reaction to the game and then maybe where this could take Idaho.
Sure, yeah. I mean, I think Kylor hit on it pretty good in the fact that Malotte's just making him throw is going to be good for whoever you're playing. And with Montana State running for 128 yards, and I get that it was 5.6 per carry, that's kind of right on what Idaho allows. Montana State's a team that's what, at least more than half of what they usually rush for. I think they were over 300 coming in. And they just got out of their game plan because Idaho was ready to play. Obviously, with the extra week, you get some, get some extra time to prep and put in some wrinkles. And I was kind of paying attention to that game. I was tailgating at JMU, and right as the game's ended, I was actually with our buddy Campus Tour. We're looking at that, both kind of like, oh wow, that happened, kind of thing, as they hold off with the missed field goals. And the one thing I want to talk about is a couple of missed field goals. Because they're 45 and 43 yards. Not like they're 25-yard chip shots. And
they're tough ones.
Yeah. At the FCS level, having a kicker that can hit those 40-plus yard field goals, honestly, is a luxury.
Yeah, that's rare. Really rare.
Yeah. So, I'm not going to really fault them. I mean, I guarantee you they don't have anybody better on the roster to boot the guy. So that's your guy. As far as resume for Idaho, with that win, it gives them a third-ranked win on the season, and that's a top-5 win. I believe Sac State was top 5 when they did that. So they wound up 9-2 with a loss to Montana and a loss to Cal and an FBS win. That's a top 2 or 3 resume. Now, here's the funny thing that I'm really contemplating as you think about the rankings this week. As I look at number 2, I feel like all I'm going to do is just remove the word state.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. Gonna go Grizz.
And it might be that they're 2, 3, 4. Because right now, Idaho has beaten Montana State, but Montana beat Idaho. Obviously, the other two still have to play in the brawl. But right now, Montana is not a good loss. We all know that Northern Arizona loss was a bad one. But I can I'm not going to say I overlook it, but that team has changed since then. With the quarterback change, has made that offense a lot more dynamic. And what you saw from that defense yesterday is what that defense has been doing all year long.
Change quarterback again, and it looks even better.
Yeah. And Montana's run defense is significantly better than Idaho's. And by significantly better, I mean number 1 in the FCS.
Yeah.
So when we get to the brawl, I'm not picking Montana right now, but I'm also not saying I'm not going to pick Montana.
What a year.
Right now, let's see what happens. Just think about it. 4 weeks ago, Montana was kind of a laughing stock that was just squeaking by, and they have just been rolling.
They were the worst 3-0 FCS team in the nation.
I was going to say, I'm going to keep Idaho above Montana for now because they're just full body work, I think, is just better. But Montana has a chance to win out. And if they win out, it takes all of the advantages that right now Idaho has over Montana. Sac State win, Montana State win. Not a bad loss, right? Montana, if they're the number 2 team in the nation, that's only the loss to the 2 team. That's a pretty dang good loss in a close game, much better than NAU. But if Montana wins the next few games, because they're not an easy schedule, Sac State, Montana State, I believe that's, in 2 of their last 3.
That's the tough ones, yeah.
Then now I think that head-to-head argument is a little bit better because they would have the same best wins as Idaho. But as of right now, I just like Idaho's resume slightly better. I don't think you're wrong keeping them all 2 through 4. I can easily make arguments for it. I don't know if I'll have Montana State that high because as of right now, they just don't have any good wins now. They kind of Sac State. That's about it. They beat Sac State, right?
Yep, they beat Sac State a week ago.
Other than that, I don't think Sac State's that good, to be honest.
Yeah, I agree.
That's just me, and they're still in the top 5 for some reason. I don't think they're that good. But other than that, you're looking at probably 3 top 5 teams. One of them is going to get a 2 seed.
Honestly, there might not be a year where I'm looking more forward to our mock playoff special where we get to seed the top 8 seeds and do the field because boy, it is not clear at all, except for one thing. All right, Jeremiah Rash, Dustin Elton, Aaron Amick, amazing people. Jeremiah says SDSU destroyed USD and made it look easy. Was USD overvalued because of the NDSU win, or are they still a top contender? Is there anyone who can beat SDSU this year, says Dustin Helton. And Aaron says, if USD was ranked 4th, how big is the gap between SDSU and everyone else? Who's going to be ranked number 2? The gap is as long as these ears stretch out. I tell you what, Here's the team, though. You ready? You ready, Jacks fans? Here's the team that undoubtedly, I've done my research on this, that could beat SDSU. I looked through the whole thing, all the teams. And you know who I found? SDSU can beat SDSU. That's it. There you go. If SDSU does not play their game, if they pull cover your ears, Jamie, 2017 JMU in Frisco style of mental error game, they can get beat by not playing up to their potential. This team, 29 seniors, a majority of them, a lot of them coming into their 6th year from the COVID year, is so far ahead and beyond the rest of the FCS that when they're playing poorly, it's literally just something for them is not clicking. It looks like they didn't just get up for the fight. And statistically, from PFF, they were the number 1 FCS offense last week. They were the number 1 FCS defense last week. The coaching staff is still intact. They're going to be the number 1 seed. They're going to beat NDSU this next week. They're going to have the number 1 strength of schedule. They've got more ranked wins than anybody else. The gap between SDSU and 2 and everybody else is huge. I've been saying it since January. The season's done. 15-0. Rabbits, enjoy the ride. You're going to win the national championship. The difference between my take and everybody else's is that other people have a little bit of faith that they might lose. Not going to happen. They're just too good. The quarterback is polished. He's the Easton Stick of SDSU. And I've seen teams like this win and go undefeated before. So I think what do you got, Jamie? You disagree with me? You gonna downplay this sad puppy who just thinks the season is a waste of time, or what?
Not completely. I do think that's probably their biggest obstacle. Again, why do I keep talking good about Montana? But that run defense, I kind of want to see that game. I would also like to see Idaho match up against South Dakota State. Those are the 2 teams that have the ability to match up. And then as another outside team that might give them a good game, although they've been smacked by South Dakota State in the playoffs twice recently, the shirt and hat you guys had on. I'd like to see Delaware with their high-octane offense and real strong defense. What could they do? Probably nothing. I think you're probably right, Matt. SDU's biggest opponent will be SDSU. But those would be the 3 teams, and they're probably going to be, 3 of the next 4 or 5 seeds after South Dakota State. So however those matchups fall, who gets to go to Brookings, who gets to go to Frisco. So hopefully we'll get a couple of those matchups and see if anybody can take their biggest shot and force them into some errors and see if they can pull an upset. But I wouldn't pick it. South Dakota State should roll. They're very good. I don't know that USD was completely overhyped, maybe a little bit. I mean, we did it with North Dakota when they beat NDSU too, and then I don't even know if North Dakota is a playoff team, to be honest.
Yeah, they barely got by.
Yeah, they're just not. I mean, they talk about Bison hangover. It's lasted, but that was their Super Bowl. So I mean, North Dakota may just fall off. That would be the reason the Valley won't get 7 bids for me. Northern Iowa watch them too, but kind of taking this way around. But I think I also answered it. So yeah, I don't think anybody can beat them, but I'd love to see a few of those matchups to let people take their biggest swing.
And I just think they're going to be the consistent over the next 4 weeks. If the Grizzlies will be like, they weren't as good. And like Idaho might slip up or have a close game. Oh, Idaho. Well, SDSU just keeps winning. Kylor, voice of reason here or voice of panic? What do you think?
The only thing I disagree with is, you saying they have number 1 strength of schedule because of Versus. That is where Versus is wrong. They don't even have a top 10 strength of schedule.
Versus is never wrong.
Massey is better on strength of schedule. Other than that, Versus kicks ass. But here's what I'll say. No one's going to bet on SDSU to lose anything this year. It's a stupid bet. But I do not think they are light years better than everyone else, like Matt's saying. I also still think that they are potentially going to have a loss this weekend. We'll maybe talk about it later. And I have reasons for it. But here's the thing. When you get them to just try and Matt will hate this because he thinks he's the best quarterback known to man. When you get Mark Gronowski to try and take over a game, I don't think he's that guy. He struggled against Southern Illinois. He struggled against Montana State. When you limit the run, and what's crazy is limiting SDSU's rushing game to about 150 yards changes the dynamic of that team when you're playing a good defense who is pretty balanced overall, like a Southern Illinois, really good defense balance. Idaho, really good defense balance. Montana State, really good defense balance. And I'm talking about the defensive in terms of balance. And then you got Montana, like Jamie said. Now, I don't think Montana has the offensive firepower to go toe-to-toe with South Dakota State. But I think Idaho, Montana State, if they play a perfect game, and that's all it takes, it just takes one game, they can probably go toe-to-toe with South Dakota State. Delaware potentially can go toe-to-toe with South Dakota State. Southern Illinois can potentially go toe-to-toe with South Dakota State. I mean, it's just you have to play a perfect game to beat them because South Dakota State is so balanced. They're so talented. They're big. They're fast. They're physical. But I don't think this is like a 2013 NDSU or a 2018 NDSU where they're just light years better. I think they're by far the number one team, but I think there's a few other teams where if they actually play a close game, they can go toe-to-toe with them. And maybe if they just get the ball at the last drive, there's a chance. But you have to play a really good game. Where that 2013 NDSU team, that 2018 NDSU team, didn't matter if you played a perfect game. You still weren't overcoming NDSU. And I get it. South Dakota State, the number one offense, number one defense, that is extremely rare. That is extremely rare. And I don't think the FCS, including South Dakota State, is maybe as deep as some of the other previous years from the top team. Still think they're a damn good team. And again, I'm not betting on anyone to beat them. I just don't think they're light years ahead of maybe some of the other contenders that are coming here.
Time will tell. And if you guys want to hear me sing more praises to the Bunnies as a Bison fan, I will undoubtedly be joining the Jackrabbit Illustrated crew on their pods throughout the week, as is tradition on Marker Week. I'm pretty good at predicting those Jackrabbit wins, so got to give me a little credit there. But
You'll never be as good a guest over there as Deb Gronowski was this past week with the B team.
Oh, my goodness. And we met the Gronowski clan down there in Frisco. Just made me love Mark Gronowski and that whole crew even more. They're just really good people.
Yep.
Great
100%.
family.
Matt's best quarterback in FCS history.
He's so, God. They'll hate me. I wish he was in green and gold. He's so good. Jason Plotkin, guys. Love Jason. He gets a question in every week. Jason says, Incarnate Words had 2 less than impressive showings in the last 2 weeks. Is the committee going to penalize them when it comes to seeding for not just running up scores in the Southland? And I'm pulling it up on the screen here, guys. It is our last topic for the Big 7 in terms of Northwestern State, so we won't cover anything right now on it. But you will notice that their game against Northwestern State, Saturday, November 11th, is now canceled, leaving Incarnate Word with only 2 games remaining in the season. Let's talk about this team that is not getting the results and praise that it was last year. Jamie, how do you think that this affects them overall with the fact that they're winning, but it is not like impressive wins in a very weak conference?
Yeah, I think you see it based off of already what the committee put out on their top 10. Because if you look at the coaches poll, which is trash, and the stats poll, which is okay, they're in the top 5 or 6 in both of those, and the committee put them 10, which is 100% correct. There's one thing to have a weak schedule and still be a top 4 seed, which is, think about what Delaware's doing. They're playing a weaker schedule, but they are just hammering people. Incarnate Word is squeaking by Lamar and squeaking by McNeese State. And that's not a seed-worthy team. It's not a team that scares anybody. If I was a first-round team that my bracket says, oh, I'm going to play Incarnate Word next, I'd say, okay, I'm a quarterfinal team then. Because Incarnate Word, they don't scare me, although I say that and they just keep winning. But, yeah, losing that one game there, and then they had I believe they had a non-D1 game, which the committee says counts, but it'll factor in. I don't see any way this team gets a seed, and they darn well better beat Nichols this week, because if not, Nichols is going to the playoffs, and they're not.
Yeah, that's kind of something that's not being talked about enough, of that conference standings and the auto bid and what happens after that. Could have quite a bit of fallout. Kylor, you've been on this train for a little while as well. The birds, what's the word with the birds, my man?
So they are, as long as they win out, they're 100% going to get a seed. I disagree with everything Jamie said outside of him, and I both don't think Incarnate Word's that good. But here's why they are 100% going to get a seed. They're like ranked 19 in my poll, so I would not see them if I was me but I'm talking as a committee member. They're already number 10. They did their committee poll. Western Carolina just lost. They are out. Sac State is going to play some teams. Montana or Sac State, the winner of that game, out, right? Potentially. Montana State versus Montana, the winner of that game, probably out. Because now you're looking at, multiple FCS losses. So already just by trial and error, South Dakota may be out too now. We'll have to wait and kind of see what the last little games are going to prove. But again, just based off of what teams are playing, it looks like they're already a lock for a minimum of an 8 seed no matter what, because other teams are going to play each other and then they're going to get busted out of the seeding. So, I mean, it almost, as long as they win out, which we'll see. Nichols looks tough, right? Or they just played Nichols? I forgot.
Yeah, they play them this week, I believe.
They play them this week, and then Northwestern State got canceled. Then who do they end with? HCU? I think that's what it just said. Yeah, I mean, if they beat Nichols, they got a good chance to run the table for sure. Nichols looks solid, but again, just process of elimination, it looks like they have a lock for an 8 seed as long as they win out, because these other teams are going to beat each other up.
Yeah, honestly, that was kind of a cool little back and forth boxing match between you two. And I think the process of elimination argument probably gives Kylor the edge there. And because it's not that they're maybe deserving of it, but who else are you going to replace them with without it being a firestorm?
And who's going to jump them if the committee already has them number 10? There's not a lot of teams below that are going to jump them.
There's only one team that can jump them, and they've got to win the marker this week.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't disagree with Kylor, but I do the question is, do they get penalized? Yeah, they do get penalized, because if they're undefeated, an undefeated team is usually a top 3 seed. They are not going to be that.
Yeah, for sure. They'll get like an 8 or 7 seed, and that is penalized compared to them running the table.
I mean, it's the Colgate 2018 thing. I mean, that was a better team than this Incarnate Word team, and they got an 8.
That's true. We will have to see how it plays out. And of course, this will be flawlessly predicted when we do our mock playoff special. We will nail every single team. So make sure you tune in a week early to our podcast if you want to get all that figured out. 2 weeks.
Where's this costume change?
Costume changes is you're watching on YouTube, which I know a bunch of people are subscribing like crazy right now. Every transition. It's going to be tough on the next one. That gives me like 12 seconds to swap things out. It's going to be rough. What hasn't been rough, though, is the season for Joe Gasp and his team, Delaware. Preston Adams and Evan Wilson. Preston, appreciate you tweeting these questions on Twitter every morning on Sundays. Somehow Delaware is flying under the radar for the most part, but bossing the CAA. How do you see them being seeded? How many bids are we looking at for the CAA getting stuff in? The Blue Hens are averaging 40 points a game, says Evan Wilson. Top 4 seed likely come playoffs. If they can revenge last year's loss to Villanova coming up. So, Jamie, this is the old conference, your old stomping grounds. Tough for you to watch those games since, Flow Sports is cutting out on you. But that being said, what are your thoughts on Joe's Fighting Blue Hens? They have looked outstanding so far. What is their seeding situation looking like down the line?
Yeah, the only close game they played was a 29-25 win against New Hampshire. They have hammered everyone else. And they only beat NCAA 21-6, but that was in almost a hurricane. So let's give them a pass there. But they're doing what you're supposed to do when you're the dominant team. They're doing what JMU always did in the CAA. It just hammer everybody in the CAA, hammer your out-of-conference teams. So
you said that, Jamie, I have to cut you off. You said this. You don't remember this. But when JMU left, you credited Sam Herder for thinking like you, but you also said that Delaware, with the facilities and the tradition and the investments and the thoughts towards FBS, was the most likely team to take that spot for JMU. I remember you saying that.
Yeah, and it was pretty obvious from anybody who followed the CAA that Delaware was very similar to JMU. They always scared the hell out of me. I think we barely have a winning record against them, and it's always been a tough matchup. I mean, I think they handle Elon at home. I think they go to Campbell easily. This Battle of the Blue is always a crazy game. Anything can happen, and Villanova's good this year. So what I'm going to do real quick, somebody else asked about what does the CAA look like in the playoffs. I am going to show a little something here if I can find it.
All righty. Jamie, I love every moment on the podcast where Jamie lets us into his world a little bit. His
If I can find it,
top
let's see, where
127 world
is-
every single time. And if you can't find it, I will give a breakdown of what the show Wilford was all about when it came out 8 years ago.
Wasn't he like just a schizo and saw
All
a
right.
dog? Like
Yep.
it was fake, right?
Yep, he thought his dog was an actual person in a costume.
Yeah.
Yep, but it was a comedy. So,
All
all right,
right, so
Jamie, take it away, man.
what you see here is actually the CAA, and this is how I'm tracking what teams look like going into the playoffs. So I've got all the teams what they're ranked, what they are. This past week, I went ahead and put a chance for the playoffs for everybody. So I think I have Delaware as safe. After this week, they're safe. I don't see any way they don't make it, but they're not a lock. And then you've got 3 teams that are on track, one of which being actually Richmond, who was kind of come out of nowhere. They have a bye this week, so they only have 2 games left. One of them is William and Mary, so that's a rivalry game. But as of right now, at 6-3, they're kind of on track. And then you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 teams theoretically on the bubble. Those bubbles will be burst quickly. So CAA looks like probably a 4-bid conference just because they beat each other up, or they don't have it beat each other up because they played the crap out of conference. You can see not a lot of ranked wins though. Towson has 2 of them, and then there's no chance. I've got them as bubble, but actually as of yesterday's loss, eliminated. So there's a bubble burst right there. So that's kind of where I see the CAA right now. And that was no forward projecting. It's kind of just as of right now what I think. That's just me. I'm sure people will disagree and say, "Nah, they've got 3. They only get 3. That's I wouldn't argue. I just feel like right now there's Delaware safe, and those other 3 teams, if they continue playing like they are, they're on track. Obviously, that changed every week because upsets happen. You would have had Montana State as a stone cold lock. I actually have them as just safe. I still have them as safe, but they lost, so they're still going to stay safe. They're not a lock. Had they got that win over another ranked team there, that would be a lock for them. I think Idaho probably locked themselves in. So that's where I see the CAA. I also don't think any of those teams are going to make any noise other than Delaware. And could they make a run to the semis in the right matchups? Yeah, but probably a quarterfinal team. And yeah, that's the CAA for me.
Interesting. I love your breakdowns every single time. And curious, Kylor, that you got 2 big questions here from 2 great fans. If Delaware finishes off, they beat Elon, beat Campbell, and then they win that Villanova game at the end. That means they're a 1-loss team to Penn State, I believe it is. Just 1 FBS loss, undefeated versus the FCS. Let's say Montana wins out, so they're the 2 seed or something. Idaho's the 3. Is Delaware that 4 seed? If everybody else is at 2 losses, they good enough in the CAA?
Yeah, Delaware could even be a 3 seed if that kind of scenario happens.
Oh, Furman, I guess Furman would be in there too if they run.
I think they would jump Furman.
Okay.
Yeah, I think they would. The CAA, I mean, it's not hard this year. It seems like, the CAA keeps regressing since about 2018, and then you lose JMU, and the CAA is not as good as it once was, but it's still a decent conference with a lot of decent teams. But yeah, if they're winning out and they beat Villanova, who's probably going to be, a top 15 matchup by the end of the year, that's going to go a long way in the committee's eyes. So yeah, I mean, it would be almost a lock for a top 4 minimum, but I would even say top 3 and potential top 2, depending on what else happens kind of in the FCS. Some of those Big Sky matchups are pretty brutal to end the season. So they have a chance to maybe even jump into the top 2, pending some chaos. But what's the CAA going to get? I think you need 8 wins in the CAA to get in the playoffs. I don't think any 7-4 team is getting in this year from the CAA. The bubble in terms of 7-4 teams is just going to be too big. Normally, you see every single 7-4 Missouri Valley team get in. I don't think you're going to see that. I don't think you're going to even potentially see a 7-4 Big Sky team get in if there is a couple 7-4 teams outside of maybe the top 4 in the Big Sky. So I think because Richmond, they play William and Mary. One of those teams is eliminated. I don't know who Albany's playing. Villanova's probably a lock, and Delaware's a lock, to be honest. But outside of that,
Albany's got William and Mary this weekend too.
So there you go,
That's
right?
Huge.
someone's going to be eliminated. I think we're probably going to get 3 CAA bids. I don't see more than 3 unless some extra chaos happens, but I don't think the chaos is going to happen as much as maybe some people want. And yeah, I don't see any reason why a 7-4 CAA team deserves a playoff bid. They're not good enough.
We will see what the chaos brings. Delaware, boy, thinking about Furman, thinking about Montana, thinking about these other teams, there's so many possibilities there. I think Delaware is one of the safer teams besides Furman to probably finish with just the one FBS loss.
Beating the shit out of everyone. Yarn is running over everyone. I mean, again, it's flow, so the CAA I can't watch as much as everyone else unless it's a random YouTube one that someone tweets me online. But just following the stats, I mean, Delaware looks really good. They are literally the only conference, though, that I don't watch and I don't have a great solid opinion. So even when I say the CAA sucks, it's just following who they play, and they don't play anyone in the out of conference, and they don't look that good in the out of conference versus the bad teams they play. But I could be wrong on that. Maybe the CAA has some real contenders and no one's watching them because of flow.
So you know how Montana State has Malott and Chambers?
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
And they're both excellent runners and they're okay passers.
Mhm.
Delaware has Ryan O'Connor, who was awesome to start the year. He's been hurt the last 2 weeks. All Zach Marker's done is throw for 300 yards each game. They have not missed a beat. And Delaware, you've heard me beat the drum for years, is they've got to have the quarterback play, and they really hadn't had that consistent quarterback play until Nolan Henderson got to his junior and senior year.
And now they have it.
Now they have it.
Yeah.
I mean, this team is going to scare somebody. I just don't know because of the strength of schedule. I just don't know when they go up against the quote unquote big boys if they can hold on to that, or are they just popping people because they should right now. Time will tell how good this team is. I mean, maybe who knows? Maybe it is a national title team. Yeah, right. It's not, but it's just we don't know for multiple reasons. One is flow, and 2 is strength of schedule. But they're doing what they're supposed to do, and that's all you can ask of a team like that is just do what you're supposed to do.
But I would put them above Furman. I'm just saying
easier said than done because Incarnate Word hadn't done it.
Yeah.
Jamie says that all the time. They're doing what they're supposed to do, which is the opposite almost of Furman, which Furman is winning, and I love Furman, but they're not destroying individuals the way that Delaware is. Maybe that's strength of schedule. I also think head coach Ryan Carty has his quarterbacks or quarterback, and I don't think he's had that in the past. There was no way him coming from Sam Houston was not going to bring some offensive juice into that offense. So that's really exciting for Delaware, especially for fans like Joe. So, Joe, thanks again. Tip of the hat to you, good sir.
Yeah, this shirt, dude, I look good in blue. I don't wear blue that often.
Good in blue.
Yeah.
Oh,
hey, how you doing?
Last thing we need you is rocking that in Frisco down there with those bunnies. Speaking of bunnies, Joshua Hoffman, a great Rabbit fan, and came on the fan cast with us. Threw this one in here, guys, because I think it's a good jumping off point if we answer it quickly. But I don't know if it's a quick answer. He says, prove me wrong why SIU and USD, Southern Illinois, South Dakota, is a game for a seed next week. Now, I think this one is really interesting because both teams currently sit at 6-2. Let's play a hypothetical where both win. They're going to play each other this weekend, but let's say that South Dakota wins, okay? If South Dakota wins, their last 2 games are hosting North Dakota, okay? That would be a ranked win as of right now, most likely. And then they're going to destroy Western Illinois to end the year. That's going to finish them out at 9-2. So could be, with wins over Southern Illinois and North Dakota. Very impressive. Now let's go down the line at Southern Illinois. Southern Illinois sitting at 6-2. In this hypothetical, they will beat South Dakota, which will be a ranked win. They travel to Fargo. Huge one there. See what they do against the Bison. And then they have Indiana State to end the year, which they likely will demolish unless they pull a UND. So both of these teams, if they were to run the table, one of them is going to lose here and be done out of the seed. But could the other one finish off and nab that seed, whether it be a 7 or 8 on the back end? Jamie, what do you think? Is this realistic for one of these teams, or is there going to be too much like one loss Incarnate Words, if you will?
I think the winner puts themselves on track for a potential seed, but there's so much they both have to go. Both have played a team from North Dakota, and no matter what you think of the Bison, they're not going to lay down. Now, USD is in a little bit better spot because they already have the win over NDSU, and one of their 2 losses is to an FBS team. So they've got 1 FCS loss. So if they win, I think, and then obviously from there run the table, that's a seeded team. If SIU runs the table, that's definitely a seeded team. But you said the key word, they got to go to Fargo. And North Dakota State, no matter how they're playing, it's still going to be a tough game. I might actually pick Southern Illinois in that game just because I really like their defense, and I don't know if NDSU is going to be able to move the ball on them. And they played South Dakota State as tight as anybody outside of Montana State. So they could run both. Whoever wins the game could run the table. I think USD is most likely to, if they win, run the table because they'll win their next 2 games. That's all to say that I don't think this game is for a seed, but it is for an inside track at a seed, provided they continue to do what they need to do. Because if SIU wins and then goes and loses to Bison, they will not be a seed because that'll be a loss to NDSU, SDSU, and a ranked Youngstown team. But 3 is not going to get you a seed.
There's an insane amount of hypothetical here, and it's just as with everybody right now. It's probably just natural every year that that's where it hits. But Southern Illinois is, I agree with you, Jamie. USD has a much better in track for the possibility of the seed because they already did the thing. They beat the Bison. They did it in Fargo, and I'm going to predict for them to beat UND at home, of course, and they'll wipe the floor with Western Illinois to end the year. The question is like Jeremiah Rash. What SIU team are we going to see? Is this going to be one where the Dogs show up and they get the victory and they are who we thought they were? Or are they going to lay an egg and USD is going to come in there and get the victory? This game is really crucial. It's huge for both squads. I think both of them are going to be playoff teams. They're both going to find their way into the playoff field. But who's going to be in a position to actually make some noise and go a little way down the line or just be some Valley representative? I think this is a massive, massive game, which, of course, we're going to make predictions here at the end. Kylor, do you see either of these teams, if they run the table, having a chance at a seed?
If either one of them run the table, yeah, they're probably going to be the seed from 7 to 8. I just don't think we're going to see any of these 2 teams get a seed because I think, Southern Illinois is probably going to win their next game and then lose the one after that. And also it's just looking at that 31-3 loss is brutal. I mean, that just doesn't scream, I deserve to be a seed. When you've kind of lost right now to all of the good teams you have played, right? Unless you're thinking Austin P is that good. I don't think they are. Right now, they've lost all the good teams they've played. So I don't know. Yeah, we'll see. If either one of them win out, though, yeah, they'll be a seed. I just don't think that's going to happen.
Yeah, it's going to be really, and it's dependent on what's going to happen with the rest of the FCS as well. And there are tons of things moving. Tons of teams are winning, losing, statistically 50-50 every week. With Western Carolina, though, that is one of the teams, and this is why I was excited about this episode. It's like seeding and what's up with this team. That's what the fan vibe was in the question. What's up with this team? Could they be seeded? Cody Werlinger comes in hot, guys, with Western Carolina losing to Furman and Mercer the last 2 weeks. Are there playoff hopes on life support? Oh, boy. Okay. Jamie, if you're watching on YouTube, is giving you his answer now, so I'll let him kick it off. This is your team, Jamie. Western Carolina, what do we think?
So Western Carolina is 5-2 against the FCS, and they have a win already over Chattanooga. So that's in the bank. They've got a win over one of those top teams. They play Wofford and East Tennessee State to close the season. They're going to win both of those games. I don't see how they get kept out. They might be one of the last 4 in. I think they're still a playoff team. There's 0 chance to get a seed. 0 chance at a seed. But SoCon is looking like they could potentially wind up with 4 bids. I just don't know if they're going to get them. So Western Carolina might be that team that is on the edge. I think that with 2 more wins, they're in good shape. I just don't know if Mercer has enough. I think they're in line for one, but I don't know that they've got enough juice to take the other playoff spot. Let's see. They've got the Citadel and Sanford, so they should close with 2 wins, which, let's see, Mercer, that would put them at 2 losses. So, yeah, I mean, it's going to be close. It's going to be very close. I don't think they're on life support. I think they're still in good shape, but a lot can happen. We've seen things happen where we think the SoCon's going to get 3 or 4, and they only get 2. I think this might be the year. But I think Kylor said earlier, you better get to 8 because there is a lot of 7-win teams, and maybe I just talked myself out of what I was going to say, but they do finish with VMI, so that's 3 more. So that'll get them to 8. That'll get them to 8. I didn't scroll down. So Mercer finishes with the Citadel Stanford. Okay, so they have their bye week the last week of the season, and I think that's what's weird too. I'm going to keep talking here because I had a point that I was going to make about Chattanooga. Their season is basically done this week. They play Furman. If they win, great. They lose, then they have a bye, and then they play Alabama. Committee's going to forget about them. Unfortunately, it's like they're not going to have that finishing kick if they lose to Furman this week. So this is almost a must-win for Chattanooga. And then Mercer, their season is done on the 11th. They don't play the last week. So when we go to do our live mock on the 12th, that night, we will know exactly what Mercer is. It should be a team with 2 more wins, which I think would put them at 8. And we'll be able to really – they would be the only team we can really project well. So, yeah, all of that rambling to say SoCon looks like it could have 4 teams, but they might wind up with 2 because it's going to be such a big bubble.
Take that rambling, though, for what it's worth, which is this season, it feels way more than others where there are going to be so many of the 7 and 4s and 8 and 3s. It every week counts more than ever than in this FCS season. It is absolute crazy town. Kylor, you're sold Western Carolina's in?
If the season ended today, I think they would be in and still be above Chattanooga, even though Chattanooga has 1 more win. And it's because, that WCU, the Chattanooga lost to North Alabama in my head just looks so bad. And then, of course, they won the head-to-head as well. But, yeah, Chattanooga has to win out. They got Furman, then Alabama. Good luck. If they could beat Furman, they're in. And then you got maybe some question marks. I don't know. WCU is not going to lose. It's kind of a bummer the last few weeks they haven't had Reed when they're playing their 2 tough games on their schedule. So that is kind of a bummer. I'm not sold Mercer's in. I don't know. Yeah, there's a lot of 7 and 4 teams that are going to be. You're looking at, there's potentially 8 Missouri Valley teams that could qualify. Of course, they're not getting 8. I don't even think they're getting 7. They're probably getting 6. But then Jamie just said he thinks there's going to be 4 CAA teams. There's probably going to be 4 Big Sky teams. You're using a little bit of you're losing some hope. But I do think the SoCon probably does grab 2 to 3, and I hope it's WCU, and I hope Reed is healthy because that's going to change some things. I don't know. Is he out all season, Jamie?
I don't think so. He said he'd be back. He tried to give it a go last week.
Yeah,
not against Mercer. He tried to give it a go against Furman, and obviously couldn't go. Probably a bad decision to try to go. Just rest it up. I give him all the credit in the world. Yeah. He's a gamer. I hope he can come back. But yeah, sounds like my math isn't adding up when I start saying a lot of these bids for everybody, does it?
There's so many. Yeah, there's so many teams that are actually going to be on the bubble. And I said it, a couple weeks ago. It's because there's no one good. Maybe I'm a little bit wrong on that. Maybe there's a lot of decent teams, or maybe there's just a whole bunch of 7-win teams because there is no one good this year.
I think it's a bunch of average. It's a bunch of damn average teams.
Between about 8 and 45, everyone's kind of similar.
Yep. Yeah, I think that about covers it right there.
Yes, it does. And that is only 6 of 7 questions. Our 7th question is going to come at the end of the podcast, so make sure you guys listen to the rest of the way through. And what we're going to do now is roll into after talking about all those seeds, the tummies are probably grumbling a little bit, so it's time to make a fancy little taco bet.
Taco King, coming to you from bright and sunny Fargo, North Dakota. It's time for a taco bet, and time for you losers to pay up.
Look at this sucker. Look at that. You guys still hear me okay? I'm not breathing too hard.
His kid's toy either. Oh, yeah. The Death Star just blew up with
The Rebels are blasting things off as
That was
Lord.
Star Wars episode, 4 graphics right there.
That was throwback right there. Yep. The Empire was sad. Okay, guys, taco bet time. Got a great one here. A good friend, Brad Berthold, says SDSU has beaten the Dakota schools by an average of 27.5 points, and NDSU has lost to the Dakota schools an average of 15 points. So he's wondering, over or under win by South Dakota State or NDSU at 15.5. In fact, the Versus Sports Simulator has us at about 16.5 points. So we are mixing some game predictions along with this one. What do you think, Kylor? Over or under SDSU for NDSU here?
So are we also picking this game, or is that at the end too?
I actually just rolled it right into this sucker because this will just give it away mostly what you're thinking. So you might as well make your game prediction. Mine won't come here because mine will be on the Jackrabbit Illustrated podcast.
So South Dakota State is by far so much better than North Dakota State, especially this year. They're better everywhere. Every aspect of the game, they are better than North Dakota State. But this has a weird feeling for me that this is like the NDSU teams in the past where, guess what? It didn't matter if they were better. This is a rivalry game, and South Dakota State is going to be the only team that could potentially upset them. So it's not just going to be under. It's 100% going to be under. Go with me with my Idaho, Montana State pick. There was just a weird feeling in the air. If South Dakota State plays NDSU 100 times, they win 99 of these times. But this weekend is going to be the one time where NDSU gets an upset. Everyone was saying they're off, they're gone, the dynasty's over. Now the whole motto is going to change this next week, and we're going to hate every single person from Fargo for the rest of the year because everyone from Fargo is going to say, we're going to run the table. We just beat South Dakota State. But then in the playoffs, South Dakota State beats them by 54, just like what NDSU used to do to South Dakota State. So we are just getting a changing of the guard. So I'm going to go the under and actually take NDSU to win outright. They're 1 out of 100 chance to beat this team. They're going to do it.
Dang. Crazy. Good job. Jamie, what do you got there, buddy? Over under 15.5.
Gosh, I don't even know if I could take Matt seriously. Look at it like this. So
bad.
So just to kind of take what Kylor started with. So JMU is way better than ODU, way better than them at everything. We beat them 37-3 last year and came into last night's game a 20-point favorite. We should cover that, right? Not so much. Looked like crap. Why? Because it's a rivalry game. It was on our turf, and they almost beat us. That's why South Dakota State is only going to win this game by 7 points. Rivalries matter. And it's the whole thing that NDSU used to say about SDSU. Oh, all you do is get up to win a little rock. Well, guess what? NDSU is just getting up to win a little rock. And they're going to give it their best damn shot. And I don't have the guts to call it like Kylor did, and I don't know if he's going to be able to go 2 for 2 on top 2 upsets in 2 weeks. But, yeah, I've got a 7-point game. 7-point game.
Well, I will not be disappointed if my evil empire is able to pull off either of those. Even a 7-point loss would be like, ooh, all right, not too shabby. But I'll talk more about that at the South Dakota State Jackrabbit Illustrated podcast. For now, let's leave the evil empire and let's get into some quick hits.
Just because your question is answered quickly doesn't mean we don't care. These are the quick hit questions of the week.
Okay, FCS Fans Nation. Sorry for my mic issues. I sound a little bit muffled. You better be subscribed to YouTube to see why. And welcome to the quick hit questions. And Jamie, this is a really good one here. Tell me if you think it's on par with the theme of tonight. Alexander Peterson says this is not football related. What is your favorite Halloween themed activity, movie, and why?
You are absolutely going to hate my answer. I do not give a crap about Halloween.
No.
I could care less. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not one of those prudes that leaves my light off and tells the kids to move on. I got my bag of candy. They'll get a couple of nice pieces. I'll take care of the kids. But I just don't care. I really don't. I mean, like when I was born in the 80s when my costumes were like more plastic than that. Like when I was Mr. T or a football player or a teenage
He was
Ninja Turtle. You're damn right. I bet you I can find that picture. My mom probably will post it
Oh
on
my God.
Tuesday because she throws all kinds of crap up for Halloween. If I find it, I'll post it.
Perfect.
I think I was maybe my brother was Mr. T. I don't know. I know he was a California raisin one time too. So,
Well,
I
Alexander,
think I was ruined from a young age. But no, don't care about Halloween that much at all.
I like scary movies because they're the one thing I pay attention to the whole time. Love them. And this is definitely my favorite movie of all time in scary movies there, Alexander. Kylor, Neil, what do you got, buddy? Halloween.
I used to have a fun time, in college and stuff like that with the party scene. But now I'm just an old creepy man. So the first part of this is going to sound really creepy. We put up a camera, right? Already a little creepy. We decorate the front of our house, and then we have a whole bunch of not a whole bunch, but a few really small animatronics that light up and just yell. So we have the skull, and it doesn't look like it's supposed to do anything. But when you walk right in front of it, of course, it screams, and every single little kid who comes by leaves crying. So I'll be in Chicago during Halloween, but I will be watching our little camera, just making fun of everyone who goes and trick or treats. And then we'll come up. We always give them 2 handfuls of candy because I feel bad. But normally I'm there just cracking up laughing as kids are, running and screaming. And then I see the parents, they're laughing too. So yeah, that's kind of the favorite pastime nowadays. It's a little creepy, but yeah, makes my
At
day.
least you own it.
Good. Yeah, you
Silent.
scare the kids. It's what Halloween's for.
Yeah.
Really good. All right, guys. Can the Taco King bring the heat for an Aggies win? They play Towson. Brian Taco King Thompson is going to homecoming for NCA&T. Should be a good time. Playing very bad Towson. Kylor, what do you think? Are the
I
Aggies going to get a
can't looking
victory?
at this stupid face of yours right now. I'm sorry. I didn't even hear what you said. Who are they playing?
They
Towson.
are playing Towson.
Oh, probably not. The Aggies just aren't very good this year. I'm rooting for them. I hope Brian gets to enjoy some tacos with Amos and have a good time, repping the Aggies. But I don't know. I just don't see it. They're not playing very good this year.
All right. Sorry, Brian. You might have to have a few drinks to make those guys feel better. With
Yeah,
the
especially if they
SoCon-
continuously pass for under 100 yards a game.
Not good.
Pretty bad.
Jamie Zachary Carlton, good friend, texted us this question in. With the SoCon potentially having 4 teams in the top 25 this week, Furman, Chatty, Mercer, WCU, should the Southland consider taking a SoCon approach next season and scheduling a cupcake non-conference schedule to boost the league's overall perception nationally? Getting beat up in FBS schools is not working for the Southland. What do you think?
Isn't the Southland and other teams cupcake that they put on their schedule? I kind of feel I don't know. I mean, they need to do something. Southland's really bad. It's really bad. Incarnate Words the best team. Nichols looks okay, but that's relative. They're getting smacked in the playoffs. I hate to say it. Love you, Zach. Love the triumvirate, but the Southland is just so bad, and it's always had a couple of good teams, and now it doesn't even have that, and I just don't understand.
We'll see if the Southland can represent in the playoffs for one team at least. Assuming Lafayette gets the auto bid, can Holy Cross still sneak into the playoffs, and how far would you predict both go? What do you think, Kylor? Tim Rask wants to know this one.
They need a lot of help. Yeah, probably not. I mean, the Patriots typically a one-bid team. I know they, had 2 last year with Fordham, but Fordham was the last 4 in, and they just barely snuck by with 9 wins. I mean, it would take a lot. I don't see it. But yeah, each one of these teams is second round at best. It all just depends. Are they going to get an NEC matchup first round? Because they're not going to be seeded. So if they get an NEC team, Pioneer League team first round, yeah, they can win. Outside of that, I don't think any of these teams are going past the second round for sure.
And shout out to Lafayette, looking really good, and not a lot of people gave him a lot of credit at the beginning of the year. Andrew Markham, our good friend, wants to know there, Jamie Williams, being further into the season, who's the Jerry Rice favorites and who's a dark horse for it?
I don't know that there's necessarily a favorite. The list of the first watch list came out a couple weeks ago, A lot of decent players, but no freshman is really having that huge year. I'll give you 2 names, and you can tell that I'm not biased in how I assess these things because I'm going to give you Camden Coleman, the quarterback from Richmond, who looks pretty good.
Did you just almost throw up after saying that?
Yeah, pretty much. And from Montana, Eli Gilman. That team has kind of turned the corner since he's been the feature guy. So right now, I'd say Eli Gilman is your number 1 guy with Camden Coleman number 2. Yeah, Montana and Richmond. Where do I rank them? Quincy Craig of Portland State looks pretty good. There's some defensive players I need to take a little bit closer look at. But, yeah, those would be a couple of names that I would look at. I'm sure a couple more will get added by the time the season ends after a couple more weeks. But no freshman has really run away with it like Javonte McCoy or Trey Lance has done over the recent years. So it's still wide open, and hopefully some deserving young man will receive that award in Frisco.
Someone will.
Fun to see how it plays out.
No, hopefully someone will.
Yeah, somebody would.
Yeah, somebody will. It's true. Hopefully it'll be a really deserving guy.
Nate Pirius wants to know there, Kylor. Over under 2.5 seeds for the Big Sky come playoff time.
Probably over. I think they're probably going to get 3.
Wow, 3 for the Big Sky. Well-represented conference. Them in the Valley seem to be ahead of the pack right now. Scott's our good friend who we see in Frisco almost every year. Will an NDSU win surpass the birth of my children as the greatest moment of my life? As a fellow father, Scott, we can make the dark jokes and say, yes, it absolutely will. It'll be better than the day that your child was born to ruin those bunnies' perfect season. So to at least then they can't claim a 2013-2018 comparison of greatest team of all time, even if they win the national championship. So Andrew Markham comes back around here with the last SoCon question for us, Jamie. Is the SoCon actually not as great as was advertised or marketed? They're doing the same as always and just cannibalizing each other outside of Furban, who just wins ugly.
SoCon's still pretty good. I think that the cream has kind of risen to the top. You know who the top 4 teams are, and the other 5 kind of stink. And yeah, there's a little round robin of wins there, but Furman, if they beat Chattanooga, will have beaten them all and will most likely be a seed, and then the others will fight for playoff berths. And I think, anywhere between 2 and 4. I've been high on them the last couple of years because I've always said 3 and they get 2. So we'll see. But I don't think it's bad. It's a good conference. But yeah, they do kind of cannibalize each other. And it doesn't matter overall how you win when you win the conference. It just might hurt you in the seeding. But once you get to the playoffs, it doesn't matter if you win pretty ugly or by a penalty. So take it.
Just got to win. Dustin Held in the Rev finishes it here. What are you dressing up for Halloween? I am like Kylor. I'm traveling for work, so I'm going to miss the kiddos and my wife and all of us going around for Halloween fun. The Wilford costume is the easiest to pack, so I'm bringing the dog costume with. And if I got some coworkers who want to go out on that night, I'm going to rock the dog costume for Wilford. No Pennywise this year. You dressing up out there in Chicago, Kyle, or no?
No. What? I'm going to be some lonely guy by myself eating dinner dressed up. No, I think I'm going to pass. I think I'm going to
That'd be creepier than the front door camera.
Hey, maybe I can dress up, be out at dinner by myself, watching kids on my camera that aren't my own kids. I think that wins. I think that is not creepy at all. That's a very adult thing to do. P.S. Do not call the police on me. No, I'm not doing shit. I'm not doing anything.
That's not getting edited out. We have burden of proof there. Jamie, you're not a big Halloween guy, but are you dressing up at all?
Well, my wife had a work Halloween party last weekend, and so I was there. Her and a few of her girls, they dressed up as the Golden Girls. Pretty solid,
Nice.
Solid costume put together. Her favorite movie is the 1993 adaptation of The Three Musketeers with Charlie Sheen, Kiefer Sutherland, and Chris O'Donnell, and she loves D'Artagnan. So, from shout out to Dallas, the Jackrabbit Illustrated has a Halloween costume. I think it's HalloweenCostumes.com or something like that. We'll look that out. I bought a D'Artagnan looking musketeer costume, and that was my costume First time I've dressed up in a while, other than just like putting on a red hat, Fisher's hat and a striped shirt and be Gilligan one time. That's about it.
Hey, that's okay. We have some Jim, if you're an Office fan, we got some Jim Halperts, my fellow co-hosts here, not dressing up for the Halloween, just not their jam. Still fun people. Trust me. I've been to Frisco with them a few times. So let's make some fun predictions, though, rolling into a good Halloween week.
There is no way these guys can predict football games better than me. I am the Mighty versus Sports Simulator.
Boy, the Versus Sports Simulator is cooking this week, guys. We've got some fun ones. In fact, I did 4 instead of 3 because I'm so excited about some of these matchups. And we start quite simply with Furman versus Chattanooga. They have this game point spread favored to Chattanooga by 0.33. So, I mean, basically it's a pick'em game. Total points about 54.5. I'm going to toss this one. We've been talking SoCon all night. Furman's my love, so I'll be biased. What do you think, Kylor? Furman or Chattanooga? You can't really get the point spread wrong here.
Yeah, I think Furman. They don't really care about this game as much. It's not a win it. I think Furman's pretty much a lock for the postseason. Chattanooga, like Jamie just said, they have to win to be in. I feel like they're going to play extremely well. Let me go with Furman, and of course they're going to win by more than half a point. So Chattanooga. Let me say Chattanooga's going to win, so they cover.
Going with the mocks. Also some great mock apparel on Walk-On Apparel, walkon-apparel.com. So make sure you pick that up. One of our great sponsors this evening. Jamie, going out to the Big Sky, man. This is a huge matchup. Sacramento State is going to Montana. They have this game at about 1.5 on the Versus Sports Simulator with a 46.5 point total. What do you think? You going to stick with those Grizz? You sound like you're a lover of them instead of a hater now.
Yeah, I'm going to stick with my favorite FCS team, Montana. I don't think Sacramento State is all that good. I think they're going to be one of those teams that kind of falls off that cliff and loses the games that you think they would lose. They lose to all the good teams, kind of like Montana did last year. But I'm going to pick my favorite team, the Grizzlies, to win by 2 scores.
Very cool. All right. Grizz with the victory there. South Dakota going to Southern Illinois. About an 8.5 point favorite to Southern Illinois has the Versus Sports Simulator on this one with only a total points of 22.5. Boy, they are expecting an absolute defensive dogfight. And with that being said, I'm going to go very simple. Games at home for Southern Illinois. I saw eye test against both of them. One of them should have been way up at their home stadium against South Dakota State, and they got blasted out of their own arena. And Southern Illinois, like Jamie said, put up the best fight. So using South Dakota State as a benchmark, I will take Southern Illinois. I won't take them to cover. I'll have them win by 4 points. We'll go with, they'll go over on total points, under for the point spread. We'll do a 21-17 style game. And I want to throw this last one in here, Jamie. CAA, so I'll give it to you. This is a big matchup. People aren't talking about it. William and Mary, who everybody had as preseason favorites in certain ways, going against Albany, who nobody was predicting, a 5-3 team versus a 6-3 team. We talked about the CAA tonight. Albany with the Versus Sports Simulator is a 13.5 point favorite. Who would you pick in this matchup?
I would definitely take Albany. I'm going to take Albany. William & Mary's not scored enough points, and the defense has been a little leaky the last couple of weeks. They had to win the last 10 minutes yesterday, and Reese Poffenbarger's playing well. They're not going to win by 13. That's a one-score game. It's going to be tight. I just don't think that William & Mary's offense is rolling enough to go win this game on the road. I'll take the Great Danes.
Albany of all teams, who would have thought? I mean, that is one that nobody can lay claim to. They are having a really, really good season. So that being said, guys, that does bring us to the end here. We're going to bounce back to the Big Seven on this final question that we received from Mr. Dustin Helton. He wants to know, what are your thoughts on Northwestern State with their decision to cancel the season? Put this one at the end of the podcast because it's certainly a topic that we think needs to be covered, but we would definitely want to give it its own little arena to discuss it a little bit. If you guys didn't hear, Northwestern State did call their season to an end because of the unfortunate passing of Ronnie Caldwell, a junior safety for them, was from all accounts, murdered or slain in his apartment. And there's a lot of details to that we're not aware of, that people should not assume about. Let the authorities do their work there. The first thing that needs to be said on this entire topic is for Ronnie and his family. Like, somebody's, sibling, somebody's son, somebody's family member is dead right now. And when you really take a pause on it, sports is sports, and people get heated about it, and they talk a lot of shit about it, and they think that it's the biggest thing in their life in certain moments, but it certainly isn't. Life is really, really precious, and it's hard for a lot of people and for everybody out there dealing with different demons, different things. And for Ronnie's family, we just really want to give our love and support out to you and to that community that's hurting right now, because that sucks. That's just not something that people who are watching football games, it's just something that the focus just sucks that it's on something that hurtful. So Ronnie, we hope that everything is good for his family, and we hope that they're taken care of in any way they can. In terms of the actual canceling of the season, there appears to be a lot of things that we don't know about. Jamie, we kind of talked pre-episode a little bit about the quarterback was not really happy with the call at the end of the season. The coach has said resign, 6-year head coach, from the incident. Jamie, in terms of players and coaches, any real details there? We're not breaking any news. We're just saying what people are saying. I hope everyone knows that.
Yeah, I mean, all I really saw was the statement that quarterback Tyler Vanderwall put out. He insinuated that he thought that the president and the AD made the decision unilaterally, and maybe as leaders of the organization and school and the athletic department, maybe that's their job to do. I mean, the players are going to be emotional. I know if it was me, I feel like I'd want to play in the memory of that player, but I can't speak for everybody. I can also see where you would just not want to do it. Just last year, JMU softball, we lost Lauren Burnett late in the season, and we didn't play another game, and it was okay. Now that seemed more of a team decision, and I don't know who. Again, I don't know whose decision it should be. There's no way to handle this kind of incident without emotion. And when I make decisions, I try to make them without emotion, and this is not a situation where I'd be able to do that. So whatever decision was made, I'll stand behind it. If the players are upset, I'll stand behind them being upset. If the administration made the decision to cancel the season, I'll stand behind that. I understand Tyler's being as upset as he is. I get it. I feel for him. I would love to see all of those players maybe get another year of eligibility if that's what it comes down to. But you said it all, Matt. It's about the player who lost his life, his family, and from there outward. But it starts with the family of the player who's lost his life. Their son's never coming home. I haven't read into what happened because it sounds callous to say I don't care. I don't care what happened. A kid lost his life way too early. I lost my brother he was 27, and people ask me what happened. Who cares? He's not with me anymore. It sucks. It sucks for that family. And that's all I can really say about it. It sucks. It's a terrible situation. It doesn't matter how it happened, what happened. He's never coming home again.
And that's the big takeaway here, is that don't let the focus of life in Ronnie's life turn into he said, she said, and all the bullshit you're going to see all over social media. That's not real. Ronnie and his family and that support is real. So, Kylor, any final thoughts here on this situation with Northwestern State?
No, I mean, it's unfortunate. I think you guys covered a lot. I'm trying to put myself in a fan perspective of that team, and honestly, I don't have an opinion. A few years ago, a couple Eastern players got shot before the season. But again, it wasn't like this. And, they decided to play, but it was the off season. It wasn't a murder in, the middle of the season. I don't know what the players are feeling. I don't know how you bounce back from that. I don't know what the fans are feeling. I can't put myself in your guys' shoes. I really can't. I don't know what I would feel if I was in your guys' shoes. I don't know what I would feel if I was a player. Don't know what I would feel as a coach. It's shitty. It sucks. Our condolences go out to the families, to the players, to the fans, the whole community out there. This is absolutely not something you ever want to cover, right? It's a young kid. It's a young kid who unfortunately is no longer here with us. And I don't have opinion. I've seen people on Twitter, dogging the school, and then also people dogging the school. And again, it's if you're not in those shoes, I don't know how anyone can truly make an opinion either way. So let the fans from that campus decide. Let the teams, let the administrative people decide what's best for them. And it looks like they did make that decision. Some of the football players like Vanderwall, it seems like, he didn't like that decision. So maybe the other teammates are feeling that too. But as fans of not this team, I don't think it's any of our – I don't think we should put our opinion out there about this because, again, our opinion doesn't matter on this subject, and we're not wearing the shoes of those fans, of the players, of the families, anyone in that community. So if you have an opinion and it's not, just a condolences, probably shut up. That's what I'm going to say about it. Unless you are a part of that community, then voice your opinion. Cool. Other than that, it's not for us to decide.
Well said. Yeah, life is precious, and we hope Ronnie Caldwell and his family, they find comfort during this time. And Halloween, go out with your family. If you got kids, you got others, throw candy in the bag, hug people a little closer tonight, and just know sports are what bring people together, but there are a lot bigger things than sports. And with that, we will fade out quietly tonight on the FCS Fans Nation podcast.